So welcome to English Honeydew, Unit 9, The Great Stone Face, Part 1. We have got two parts. So in Unit 9, we have the first part. And this beautiful story is written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne was born on July 4, 1804 and died on May 19, 1864. He was an American novelist and short story writer. His works often focus on history, morality, and religion. The summary of this interesting story is that it sets the scene in a rural valley in US. The rock formation in a nearby notch is imagined by many locals. Even we also visualize some rock structure, some boulders. It gives resemblance to some face or human structure. So the same thing happened with the locals of that particular village. For them it resembled the shape and features of a human face. The great stone face then was a work of nature in a mood of majestic playfulness, formed on the perpendicular side of a mountain by some immense rocks which had been thrown together in such a position as when viewed at a proper distance to precisely to resemble the features of human countenance. So in short, I'll tell you the story revolves around a structure, the mountain structure which has got the resemblance to a human face. Before you read, seen from a distance, hilltops and huge rocks seem to assume various shapes. Okay, we human beings, so that's what we call it as perspective. I may see it as something, and the other person, if you ask, that person will see in a different perspective. So we all assume a structure into different resemblance which we can relate to our daily life, the people we meet. So there is some connection, there is some resemblance to that. They may resemble an animal or a human figure. People attribute stories to these shapes. We are very good at making stories. So they have too made some interesting stories related to it. Some stories come true, others don't. The great stone face is one such shape that reminds the inhabitants of the valley of a prophecy. What was it and did it come true? And children, what is prophecy? Prophecy means your ancestors had said something, a story related to something, so that becomes a prophecy. So now we have to find out towards the end that whether that prophecy which the ancestors of that village have told to people has come true or not. So the story begins like this. One afternoon when the sun was going down, that is sun was setting, a mother and her little boy sat at the door of their cottage, of their house or hut you can say, talking about the great stone face. They had only to lift their eyes and there was plain to be seen. So it was so close. That particular structure was so close to their house so that they just have to raise their eyes and it was so clear that structure could be seen from their place. Though miles, it is very far away with the sunshine brightening all its features. So as it was sun was setting, it was adding more beauty to that particular scenery behind that stone face. And what was the great stone face? The great stone face was a work of nature, not a man-made, it's a natural thing, formed on the perpendicular side of a mountain by some immense rocks. Perpendicular you have learned in maths. Perpendicular right angle, so that is your perpendicular, which had been thrown together so that when viewed at a proper distance, they resemble the features of a human face. If the spectator means जो देखने वाले हैं, if the spectator approached too near, he lost the outline of the enormous face and would see only a heap of gigantic rocks. Okay, so as you come closer to it, you will see that there is no face. It is just a structure of rocks. But from far, it gave a structure of a human being. The same thing happens with you also at night when you go to see stars. So during the time of stargazing, you can see the moon also, and you many times say, yeah, this moon resembles with some of the faces. So the same thing happened, but when you go closer to it, it's just a structure of rocks piled up upon another, but seen from a distance, the clouds clustering about it, जैसे clouds move हो रहे थे वहाँ से, the great stone face seemed positively to be alive. It was a belief of many people that the valley owed much of its fertility to the beaming face that was continually beaming over it. So that village had a fertile land. So all that fertility, they were giving credit to that particular face. Benign means kind, gentle face. It's an adjective. A mother and her little boy, as we said earlier, sat at the door of their cottage, gazing, that is looking at the great stone face and talking about it. The child's name was Ernest. What is the child's name? Ernest. Now here you have the meanings: perpendicular, rising very steeply. Immense is huge, enormous very big, gigantic is immense, clustering is gathering, and benign is kind and gentle. Mother said, while the great face smiled on him, I wish that it could speak, for it looks so very kindly that its voice must indeed be pleasant. So that chota, small little boy, is saying that I wish कि वो mountain structure कुछ बोले, because that face looks so kind. So the voice would be so kind too. If I ever see a man with such a face, I should love him very much. If an old prophecy should come to pass, answered his mother. So when he was telling that, I would love that person, that if I come to meet that person who has got a resemblance to this face, so to that particular mountain structure. So at that time the mother is telling that there is an old prophecy. Now prophecy is a statement that tells what will happen in the future. Okay, that statement said by the ancestors that very soon you will come across that person. We may see a man sometime with exactly such a face as that, and that was the prophecy, that in future you will be finding a man having the same resemblance to that mountain structure. So the child is asking, what prophecy do you mean, dear mother? Eagerly inquired Ernest. Now Ernest was so impressed by that mountain structure, so he was very curious to know, what you're telling, mother? You're talking about which resemblance? So please tell me about it. So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told her when she herself was younger than little Ernest, that at some future day a child should be born near here who was destined to become the greatest and noblest person of his time, and whose face in manhood should bear an exact resemblance to the great stone face. तो उसकी मम्मी ने क्या बोला कि उसकी नानी ने बताया है कि in future we are going to meet to that kind hearted person जिसका face exactly वो great stone face से मिलता जुलता होगा. Many still had faith in this old prophecy, और बहुतों को विश्वास था कि this old story, this old prophecy will come true. That means they are very soon going to meet that person who has got the resemblance to that great stone face. But others took it to be nothing but idle talk. But बहुतों को लगा कि ये सिर्फ एक gossip है. At all events, the great man of the prophecy had not yet appeared. और वो अभी तक आया नहीं है. That man has not been appeared so far. Oh mother, cried Ernest, clapping his hands above his head, I do hope that I shall live to see him. Now that little boy is so excited by the whole story. He says, I want to meet that person. His mother was an affectionate and thoughtful woman. It was proper, she thought, not to discourage the fanciful hopes of that little boy. So she said to him, perhaps you may meet that person. Children, I end this chapter here. We'll be continuing this in the next part. Today you will be doing this working with the language. Look at the following words: like, lightness, punctual, punctuality. The words on the left are adjectives. Those on the right are their noun forms. Write the noun forms of the following words by adding NESs or ITY to them appropriately. Check the spelling of the new words. Lofty, loftiness. See, Y will become I. Able, ability. Happy, happiness. Near, nearness. Noble, nobility. Enormous, enormity. Pleasant, pleasantness. Dense, density. Great, greatness. Stable, stability. Children, learn the spellings. It's very important. Then only you will be able to learn. Now these are the words which we have converted into adjectives. So homework for today is write meanings in notebook. Do read the chapter. Write working with language question number 1 in textbook itself. Thank you and may God bless you. Take care.